sun was high in the sky, casting a warm, golden glow over the village. A soft breeze blew through the trees, making the leaves rustle gently. The village of Halford was peaceful, a place where everyone knew each other, and life moved slowly with the rhythm of the seasons. Green fields stretched out for miles, and a winding river ran quietly beside the village, providing water for the crops and the people. Humble houses dotted the landscape, with smoke rising from chimneys, the scent of freshly baked bread wafting through the air. At the edge of the village, on a hill overlooking the fields, stood Elder Johan's house. The elderly man, with silver hair and a face full of wisdom, was known for his kindness and fairness. He was the leader of the village, respected by everyone. But Johan often felt a deep longing in his heart. He had only one child, a daughter named Alara. She was sweet, graceful, and known for her kindness. She helped everyone in the village, whether it was with tending to animals, picking crops, or helping the elderly. Johan loved her dearly, but always worried about what would happen to the village when he was gone. He had no sons to continue his legacy, and he feared that his family's name would fade with him. Alara, with her long, dark hair and gentle smile, was the heart of the village. She walked through the streets with a soft step, offering help wherever it was needed. She was loved by all, but it was clear that her father worried about her future. The villagers often whispered about who might one day be her husband, but none seemed to be quite right in Johan's eyes. One warm afternoon, as Alara carried heavy water jugs from the river to the village, she was joined by a boy from the outskirts. His name was Kai, a strong, orphaned boy who lived alone at the edge of the village. His parents had passed away when he was very young, and he had no family to speak of. He worked the fields alongside the farmers, doing what he could to survive. His muscular build showed his years of hard work, and though he was a bit rough around the edges, his heart was kind. The villagers knew him and respected him, but there was always a sense of curiosity about him. He was an outsider, living alone, and though he never asked for help, it was clear that he did not have the same life as everyone else in the village. As Kai approached Alara, he offered to help her carry the heavy water jugs. She smiled and accepted, grateful for the assistance. As they walked side by side toward the village, they talked, and Kai's quiet nature intrigued Alara. She had heard many stories about him, but this was the first time they had spoken for any length of time. His deep, calm voice made her feel at ease. She noticed how strong he was, not just in his body, but in the way he spoke of his work and the life he led. There was something different about him, a quiet strength that caught her attention. Meanwhile, Elder Johan watched from his home. He saw his daughter talking with the boy, and he couldn't help but notice how the two of them seemed to get along so well. A pang of worry shot through his chest. He had always kept a close eye on Alara, trying to protect her from anyone he thought might not be good enough to carry on the family's legacy. He knew Kai was a good boy, but something about the boy's rough exterior and lack of family made Yuhan uneasy. As Alara and Kai reached the village, Elder Yuhan called for them to come closer. Alara, as usual, greeted him with warmth and respect, and Kai gave a polite bow. Yuhan studied the young boy for a moment, trying to read him. There was something about him, something that tugged at Yuhan's heart. He could see that Kai was strong, reliable, and hardworking. But still, the thought of him being part of his family made Yuhan uncomfortable. He had hoped that Alara would marry someone from a respected family, someone who could help carry on the village's traditions and legacy. "Thank you for helping my daughter," Elder Yuhan said, his voice calm but firm. Kai nodded respectfully. "It was no trouble, Elder. She is always kind to me." Yuhan's gaze softened, but his mind raced. He knew the village needed a strong leader, someone who could take over when he was gone. He also knew that Alara was special. His heart ached with the realization that he might never find someone worthy to be her husband and take over his responsibilities. As the evening passed, Yuhan couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over him. He had always prided himself on being wise, but now, as he watched the bond between Alara and Kai grow, he began to worry. Could this boy truly be the one to continue his legacy? Or was he simply a reminder of all that Yuhan could not control? The next day, Elder Yuhan sat in his small study, looking out the window at the peaceful village below. His heart was heavy, and his mind was consumed with thoughts of Alara and Kai. He couldn't stop thinking about their conversation from the day before. Alara was clearly fond of the boy, but Yuhan didn't know if he could trust him with his daughter's future. "I can't let him disrupt everything I've worked for," Yuhan muttered to himself. He knew that Alara would need someone by her side to ensure the village's prosperity after his passing. She needed someone who understood the ways of leadership, who could help guide the villagers and protect them. And yet, Kai's rough life and humble beginnings made Yuhan unsure. Would he be able to fulfill that role? Or would he disappoint everyone, including Alara? As the day wore on, Yuhan asked for his trusted advisor, Doran, to come by. Doran was a wise old man, a close friend of Yuhan's for many years. He had seen many seasons come and go, and was always someone Yuhan could rely on for advice. "Doran," Yuhan said as his friend entered the room, "I need your counsel. There is something troubling me. Doran, with his salt and pepper beard and wise eyes, nodded. Speak, my friend. I've been thinking about Alara, Johann began, and about the boy, Kai. There's something about him that I can't quite understand. He's strong, and he's kind to my daughter, but I fear that his lack of family, his past, might make him unfit to lead the village after me. Doran looked at Johann thoughtfully. And what does your heart tell you? Johann sighed, rubbing his temples. My heart tells me that he might be the right one, but I can't be sure. I must protect my legacy, Doran. I can't let the village fall into the wrong hands. Doran leaned forward, his gaze serious. Then, you must observe him carefully. Keep an eye on him. Don't make any rash decisions. In time, you will know if he is truly worthy. The days following Elder Johann's quiet reflection seemed to pass slowly. Alara continued her work in the village, and Kai was often seen helping the farmers, lifting heavy loads and showing the strength and determination that had earned him the respect of the villagers. Yet, something was brewing in the distance that would soon change everything. One afternoon, a group of strangers arrived at the village gates. They were tall men dressed in dark, travel-worn clothing, and their presence immediately unsettled the villagers. They carried no signs of authority, and their faces were hard and unwelcoming. As they entered the village, they began to cause trouble, demanding food and acting rudely to the villagers. At first, no one knew how to handle the situation. The villagers were peaceful people, and they didn't want to cause trouble. Elder Johann, though wise, could not bring himself to approach the strangers directly. It wasn't long before the men started causing trouble in the market, taking food from vendors without paying, and shouting at the elders. It was then that Kai appeared. He had been working in the fields nearby when he heard the commotion. Without hesitation, he strode toward the market square, his muscular frame cutting through the crowd. The strangers noticed him right away. One of them sneered, sizing him up, as if daring him to interfere. But Kai didn't back down. He calmly approached the men, his voice low but firm. "Leave these people in peace," he said, his eyes locked onto the leader of the group. The man laughed, but his laughter quickly turned to a snarl as he saw the unwavering confidence in Kai's stance. "What's this? A boy thinks he can tell us what to do?" Kai didn't respond with words. Instead, he stepped forward, his hand reaching out to grab the man by the arm. The strength in Kai's grip was enough to make the stranger wince. The crowd watched, some whispering in awe, others with concern, as the scene unfolded. The stranger, stunned by Kai's strength, quickly pulled back. "You're making a mistake, boy," the stranger growled. But Kai didn't flinch. "You're the ones who made a mistake. Leave now, and no one will be harmed." For a tense moment, it seemed like the situation might escalate. But the leader of the group, seeing that they were outmatched, gave a sharp command to retreat. The group of strangers quickly withdrew, grumbling and glaring at Kai as they left the village. The villagers cheered, their faces filled with relief and admiration. They had never seen such bravery from anyone, and Kai had earned their respect. The news of what had happened spread quickly through the village, and soon everyone was talking about the brave orphan boy who had stood up to the strangers and saved the village. At Elder Johan's home, the old man sat quietly, watching the scene from his window. A part of him felt proud of Kai, but another part of him felt uneasy. Was this the boy who could one day lead the village? Could someone like him, a boy with no family, be trusted with such responsibility? "I don't know, Doran," Johan murmured. "He's a hero, but is that enough?" Doran, who had been watching the scene with quiet interest, placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. Sometimes a hero is just what the village needs. Days passed, and the village returned to its peaceful rhythm. But Elder Johan's concerns remained. He couldn't stop thinking about Kai. While the villagers had embraced him as a hero, Johan still couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. He needed to ensure that his family's legacy would continue. And in his heart, he still wasn't sure that Kai was the right choice. After much thought, Elder Johan decided to take matters into his own hands. He began planning a future for Alara that would secure the family's legacy. The only way to do this, he believed, was to find her a suitable husband. A man who would be willing to take on the role of village leader after Johan's passing. Someone with experience, with noble blood, someone he could trust. Johan reached out to a distant relative, a young man named Elian. Elian was a respected merchant in a neighboring town, known for his wisdom and connections. He had grown up in a wealthy family and had been trained in leadership. Johan knew that he would respect Alara and carry on the traditions of the village. With his mind set on this path, Johan sent a messenger to deliver a letter to Elian, inviting him to the village for a proposal. He hoped that Elian would accept, and that this would secure Alara's future. But the messenger made an error. In the busy market square, the letter was accidentally dropped, and a kind-hearted merchant named Rohan picked it up. Rohan had seen Kai around the village and liked the boy. He admired Kai's honesty and how he treated the villagers. When Rohan read the letter, he misunderstood its purpose. Thinking it was a message for Kai, he took it upon himself to deliver it. Rohan found Kai working in the fields later that afternoon. He handed him the letter with a smile. I believe this is for you, he said, his voice kind. Kai took the letter, confused. This is not for me, he said, but Rohan had already walked away. The letter had already been opened, and Kai, not wanting to disrespect anyone, decided to take it to Elder Yuhan. When Kai arrived at Elder Yuhan's home with the letter, he was nervous. He didn't understand what was happening, but he could see the shock on Yuhan's face when he opened the letter. Kai had expected the elder to be pleased, but instead, Yuhan's expression darkened. "Where did you get this?" Yuhan demanded, his voice sharp. Kai hesitated, but explained what had happened with Rohan and the mix-up with the letter. Elder Yuhan's anger faded as he realized what had happened. For a moment, he thought about sending Kai away, but then he saw the sincerity in the boy's eyes. Though hesitant, Yuhan finally sighed and made a decision. "Come inside, Kai," he said. "We have much to discuss." Now, from this point, the story will be continued in the next part.